Hello, Grammar 2 students. This week we have to deal with clefting. We are still working with ways of organizing the information within a text. Clefting is let me read the definition, involves the division and repackaging of the information in a clause into two parts. It has to do basically with focus and contrast. There are two kinds of cleft sentences, yeah? Cleft sentences proper, or it clefts, and pseudo-cleft or WH clefts. Let's concentrate on it clefts. This is the structure of an it cleft. You have an it at the beginning, which constitutes an empty theme, plus the verb to be, plus the focus, which is, I wrote here, a relative-like dependent clause. Wow, then we'll see what that means. Yeah, relative-like. It means it looks like a relative clause, though it's not. Which are the elements that may constitute the focus within an it cleft? Well, it may be a noun phrase, a prepositional phrase, an adverbial phrase, or an adverbial clause. This relative-like dependent clause may be introduced by that, who, which, or zero. Okay. Clefts allow a speaker or writer to assert something strongly, often in contrast to something else that has been said before. They are particularly useful in written English, where there is not the freedom to put the focus on different parts of a message by moving the tonic. All right, as I said before, we use it clefts particularly for contrastive purposes. And they are very useful, here it says, in written texts, because we don't have the help of intonation. When we are talking, I could say something like, I went on holidays by train. Probably as a response to you saying, oh, how lucky you are, you went there by plane. And I say, I went there by plane. Now, if you're writing, there is a possibility of saying, it was by train that I went there, okay? Which is, of course, a highly emphatic structure. It is absolutely marked as a structure. Let's have a look at different examples here. We said that let's say the focus may be a noun phrase. In this case, for example, I could say, it was a book that she bought. We can think of the unmarked sentence or clause, which would be, she bought a book. But for contrastive purposes, okay, I could go for, it was a book that she bought, which really means probably it was a book, not a magazine that she bought. Sometimes you will find an explicit contrast, a book, not a magazine, but sometimes it is implicit. I wrote here noun phrase direct object, meaning that the focus of this it cleft in the unmarked version is a noun phrase direct object, okay? The second example has a prepositional phrase, which is an adverbial adjunct in the unmarked clause as the focus. It was in Rome that they met. Somebody suggests they met in Paris, and I say, no, I was in Rome that they met. Then we have an adverbial phrase. It was there I finally moved, which comes from an unmarked, I finally moved there. There are some other examples here. It wasn't your mom who said that, where you have a noun phrase as subject in the focus. It was only because he loved her that he offered Sarah the job. he offered Sarah the job only because he loved her would be the unmarked version. You see that there we are highlighting the adverbial clause as an adverbial adjective of reason. Okay, let's go back to the previous example to show you what we mean by a relative like clause. Because forget about what I said before, but imagine you find this. It was a book that she bought. We have been working with relative clauses and complex noun phrases. So we might say, we may feel tempted to believe that this is a noun phrase, a book that she bought. And it could be in some other sentence, right? I could say the book that she bought was very expensive, okay? The book that she bought was very expensive. Where the book that she bought is a noun phrase which has a post-modifier restrictive relative clause. Now, let's have a look at this. First of all, remember when we read these very clearly, there is a strong pause here, okay? And the tonic falls here. It was a book that she bought. In the case of the restrictive relative clause, there is no pause, okay? I want to read the book that she bought. The book that she bought is not interrupted as a structure, okay? So it may look like a post-modifier restrictive relative clause, but in fact, this does not constitute a unit. There is a clear pause between the focus and that clause, okay? Apart from that, if these were a noun phrase, we would say this is a restrictive relative clause, and we know that they are used for the identification of the antecedent, okay? You would say, okay, no, I'm interested in the book that she bought, not the one you bought. You follow? You use that for the purpose of identifying which book I'm talking about. But here, that is not the, let's say, the case. I'm not trying to identify the book, okay? In fact, it was a book that she bought. I really don't know which book I'm talking about, and that's not important here, all right? So that's why we say relative like, in the sense that, well, you have the that, and we said it might be, you may have something like a who here, okay? It wasn't your mom who said that, but very clearly, I think that intonation helps you see this does not constitute a unit, okay? All right, so let's move now to WH clefts. And the WH cleft has a structure, subject, verb, complement. It has a nominal clause as subject or complement, because this is a reversible structure, okay? You may find the the nominal clause at the beginning as subject or at the end as complement. Here you have then the nominal clause, a form of the verb to be, and the focus. Here we have an example. What I need is time. What I need is time. Of course, as I said before, this is reversible, so it could be time is what I need. You see that this is a noun clause. The pseudo-cleft sentence occurs more typically with the nominal clause as subject. Since it can thus present a climax in the complement. What I need is, right? We are sort of creating somehow suspense, okay? What I need is time. Now, in context, WH clefts often announce what is going to be the main topic of the whole text or the next part of a text. Like this. What we could do is spend some time with her. Here, you have the possibility also of, let's say, focusing somehow on the verb itself. That was not possible in the case of the of the id cleft. In the case of the id cleft, you may have the focus on the object, subject, or adjuncts, but not the verb itself. With the WH, you may say something like, what we could do is spend some time with her. You have here, the complement is a bare infinitive clause. What I need is to find a solution soon, where you have an infinitival clause as the subjective complement. This comes from the unmarked version. In the first case, it would be, we could spend some time with her. And in the second one, I need to find a solution soon, okay? Those would be the unmarked versions. All right, so you see that these two structures are then related to the question of focus. And in the case of anticipatory, particularly of contrastive focus. There is usually contrast involved. Okay, let's have a look at some examples in context now. My suggestion is to do something. Even if it isn't quite the right thing, it is nevertheless movement that can give you an opportunity to experience. You can spend a lot of time taking tests and getting evaluations for what you might be suited for. Ideas always sound good on paper, but words don't match experience. So acting on something is your best choice. All right? Okay, have a look at this. See if you can find an example of a cleft, id or WH cleft. Yes, you're right. It is nevertheless movement that can give you an opportunity to experience. Okay, which is the focus here? Movement, right? It is movement. Oh, sorry. It is movement that can give you an opportunity to experience. And if we, which would be the unmarked version of this sentence, we would say, movement can give you an opportunity to experience. That is, the focus falls, let's say in the unmarked version, on a noun phrase, which is the subject, okay? And what about contrast? Can you see the contrast here? All right, there is the contrast between, let's say, because it is movement, not words, okay? Not taking tests, okay? That can give you an opportunity to experience. All right, this is a very clear example of a cleft in context. Let's go for another example. President Trump is at war with the rule of law. This won't end well. Do Americans still have a government? I do not know. What I do know is that President Trump and the upper echelons of the executive branch are at war with the legislative branch, the rule of law, the Constitution, federal civil servants, and the American people. Okay, what do we have here? Yes, a wonderful example of a WH cleft. What I do know is that President Trump and well, it's a long sentence, right? Which would be the unmarked version. I know that President Trump, up to the end, okay? But look at how effective, all right, this text is, because the author is using like two resources, yes, to create his effect, the effect. On the one hand, the WH cleft, and at the same time, the use of do now, okay, for emphasis, the use of the auxiliary for emphasis. So what I do know would be the subject, the noun clause subject. What I do know is, all right, and the rest, okay, with the verb to be, and in the complement, we would have a noun clause. All right, and let's go for another example here. Okay, have a look at this. The project has been running since 2010 and connects students from the city's two universities to working class youngsters who they tutor in English and math, boosting the students' confidence and helping to live their academic aspirations. It is in schemes such as this that we can find the solution to this problem. As Afridi says, it is through a community-based approach that we can really make a difference to social mobility and raise the aspirations of Muslim youngsters. If only more British Muslims were given such a chance to be accepted and build a life. Okay. All right. Yes, yes, of course. It is in schemes such as these that we can find the solution to this problem. We have in the focus, okay, we have a prepositional phrase in schemes such as these, which in the unmarked version would be an adjunct. We can find the solution to this problem in schemes such as these. And there is another example, which is sort of similar. It is through a community-based approach that we can really make a difference to social mobility and raise the aspirations of Muslim youngsters, okay? So, once again, the unmarked version would be, we can really make a difference to social mobility and raise the aspirations of Muslim youngsters through a community-based approach, okay? In the unmarked version, this would be the prepositional phrase, an adverbial adjective manner. Okay? And the last example in this presentation. Many of the most loving parents we know today work hard to give their kids every advantage. If necessary, most of us will throw ourselves in front of a truck to save the children we love so deeply. But sadly, a lot of contemporary moms and dads don't see what it is their children need most. Hint, it's not baby Mozart, pee-wee soccer, or more afternoon enrichment activities. We ourselves are what our kids need most. Children thrive when they have close, connected relationships with their parents, a happy, relaxed family life, and the deep inner conviction that they are loved for who they are, not for the things they do well. Okay. What can we see here? Look at this. It's not baby Mozart, pee-wee soccer, or more afternoon enrichment activities. Can you see that we have some omission here, right? Some omissions. How would this go on? It's not baby Mozart, pee-wee soccer, or more afternoon enrichment activities that children need most. Okay? So we would say that the unmarked version would be children need, do not need baby Mozart, pee-wee soccer, or afternoon activities the most. Okay? And here we have a WH cleft. We ourselves are what our kids need most. The unmarked version would be our kids need us ourselves most. Okay? And I think there was another. Here, sadly, a lot of contemporary moms and dads don't see what it is their children need most. Can you see that the unmarked version would be many moms and dads don't see what their children need most. You're adding this, what it is their children need most, you see, for emphasis. Okay? All right. So now the idea is to stop here. We'll move together to a text because I want to see how well you do identifying clefts, particularly because I know with Jorge you have been talking about anticipatory structures, and sometimes they may be a little bit confusing, all right? Some students have problems identifying, telling a clef sentence from an anticipatory structure. But they are really different, and we're going to work together on a text so that you can see the differences. So I will stop now, and I will start a new recording.